Okay. Welcome, one and all, to yet another episode of Whick TV, a cross ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, have we got a show for you today? We are having a special call in episode with Amanda, girlfriend guide for guys, who has graciously agreed to join us and take some calls. So if you guys don't know what today is, let me kind of explain it to you. So every once in a while on the show, we do a community call-in. So you, yes, you, dear viewer, can call in and talk to us about, well, whatever you'd like. Um, Dating issues that you happen to be having. Maybe you need advice on something. Maybe you just want to say hi. Maybe you have an issue with something either I or my guest here has said. Either way, call in and talk to us. Let me give you the link. I'll be posting it in chat. And you click on that link, you accept the rules, you jump backstage. Let me give you that link. And in the meantime, Amanda, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
Yeah, tell the people who you are. What do you do? Like, who are you?
My YouTube channel is Girlfriend Guide number 4 guys. I basically help men. I'm not necessarily a debunker of the manosphere, but I definitely have like my opinions on certain things that I think might be different from what's seen in the mainstream of the manosphere. And so, yeah, so I have a YouTube channel for that.
Okay, well, the link to that's in the description in the YouTube. So if you click on that link, you'll be able to find her content if you decide that you want to do that. And please do. She's taking time out of her day to spend with us. So please make sure to do that. But for now, let's get in one of our callers. We got a line. So, gang, if you want to be in on this, jump backstage and we'll pull you in. So, hello, you're live. You're muted on your end, sir or ma'am.
Hello.
Hi, what do you have for us today?
I was curious what your guys' opinions would be on being on the same, um, like having the same path if you're dating someone. I don't know how to word it properly. Like, I feel like sometimes you feel like you're talking to someone, but maybe you're like at a different maturity level. And how important do you guys feel like that is?
You want to take this
Like
one,
in
Amanda?
terms of like careers, maybe.
Sure. Amanda, go ahead. What do you think?
Um, well, when you say that you're talking to somebody and they're not on the same maturity level, that might not be a match, just in general, probably. But in terms of on the same career path, I mean, I think that it really depends. Like, I think that people on different career paths tend to date all the time. Maybe like timing could be an issue or something.
Yeah, I
I need
guess,
like a little bit more detail.
yeah, like when you, so being at a different maturity level can mean a lot of different things. I think that rather than, like, a lot of people will say, I want someone with the same interests as me. And I think that's fine. But for me, I've always found that the best relationships are people who share values. So when you say you're not at the same maturity level, do you mean that you have different, like, goals or values? Can you explain a little bit? Can you
Yeah,
elaborate, dear caller?
I feel like maybe goals is a good way to look at it. So like let's say for example, one person's like maybe they kind of know what career they want to do and they're like working towards working in an industry that they maybe want to work in. And then the other person's still like trying to like maybe find their path in that area. So maybe more so just like maybe knowing what you're like what you want to do. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
I get it. Like, you're looking for someone who, or you are concerned that someone who may not have any discernible, like, career goals or career paths may not click with you. Is that
Or I just
kind of
was
it?
curious what your guys what your is that something that's important to you guys or not?
Oh, well, is it important to you, Amanda?
If somebody like knows what they're doing in the future, like career wise,
Or if they don't know.
or if they don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, I think what's important to people is like you kind of I think it's good to at least have a plan, and I think that people, even if it's like they're like a starving artist or something like that, I think that in dating can help a lot if you have like future plans and you sort of see yourself moving in a direction. I think that could be important, not just for the person that you're dating, but for whoever is in this main situation. It's really good to sort of have like, like just to know yourself and to know what you want to be doing. I think that could be important.
Sure, for me at least. I don't mind if someone doesn't have ambition, right? If someone doesn't really want to, or doesn't know what they want to do career wise, that's not a factor for me that I take into consideration. My criteria, such as they are things like, does this person get along with me? Can we enjoy each other's company? Do we have the same values? And in that, I mean, like, uh, okay, let me explain it this way. One of the biggest turnoffs that I'll ever find in a person is someone who is mean to the wait staff or mean to the help, quote unquote. I think that you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat those that they view as beneath them. And I think that more than them knowing what they want to do with their career, that's important to me. But last thoughts, and then we're gonna move you out and get
Oh
another
no, that
caller.
was good.
Okay.
I think I understood what your perspectives were.
Well,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
your time.
No, thank you for your time. I appreciate you calling in. Have a great day. Bye bye. See, not scary. Wasn't
Yeah.
frustrating. It went well.
I'm getting
So
more used to it.
it'll take some time. That was your first time. First time. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
get more. You'll get more savvy as we go. Gang, I was talking to Amanda backstage. She was very nervous. Very nervous. I told her there's nothing to be scared of. I lied to her a little bit. There is something to be scared of. It's very frightening. But I hope you guys will be a little gentle today. But we'll see how it goes. Let's bring in the next caller. Hello, you're live.
Hello, what is up?
Hi.
Oh.
Just chilling. What do you got for us?
All right. Okay, my first thing for you, Wick. In your little debate you had with Destiny about the Trump assassination, I remember you saying that after that photo came out, the election was over. Do you still
No,
think that?
I think that I was being doomer then. I was speaking from emotion, and so no, I rescind that comment. I don't think it's over anymore, especially since they picked J.D. Vance as a vice president. I think that
Oh
they
yeah.
blew it way open. I think we're back in it to win it, gang. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad we got the doomerism out of our system. I'm very
On
glad.
that, there's plenty more doomer to come.
Oh boy. Well, one thing I for the most part have been riding with Biden, but
Hmm.
I have become kind of doomer on it. Although I think there might be some more news. I saw Biden was up in the betting market for the Democratic nominee, but it looked like after Biden has COVID now, there's a good chance Kamala Harris becomes a nominee.
Well, actually, if I were to take my best guess, I think it'd be Gavin Newsom. I don't think they're gonna run
Oh,
Kamala, or I don't think Biden is gonna back Kamala. And I don't know about that VP pick for Trump. I do think that Nikki Haley would have made a better VP pick in terms of Trump's campaign.
um, I don't have a strong opinion on Trump's VP, but it looks like there's a decent chance someone else will be the nominee. I mean, AOC went on her Instagram live yesterday, and she said that they are planning on replacing the whole ticket, or at least there are plenty of donors who want to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think.
my question would be, how do we? I think Biden has a really good record. I think I can argue for Biden's record. What I'm not really prepared to argue is a lot of Kamala's record or even Newsom's record. You guys have any advice on that if that does end up happening?
So, I talk about there's plenty of doomer to come. I think that, and I know maybe I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I don't know how we come back from an open convention where the so I don't want Biden replaced, to be clear. But if they do replace him, Kamala, maybe, right? I could maybe get behind that. But if it's anyone else, then I just don't know how the party recovers from it, right? I don't know how we unify based on that, because think about what we're talking about here. We had a primary such as it was, and I understand that there were no debates and it wasn't the most open process. That's fair, right? But people cast their votes. Millions of people cast their votes for the ticket, for the Biden Harris ticket. And to advocate for throwing those votes away because we don't like how the polls are is gonna sit very poorly with a lot of people, me included. And I don't know what we do about that. So, what are your thoughts, Amanda?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, in terms of like Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, I honestly don't know that much of their backgrounds, if you will. But I do think character rise if they go with Gavin Newsom, just because Kamala Harris isn't really well liked among the people. I think that in terms of the Democratic Party, if they went with Gavin Newsom or Gretchen from Michigan, but again, I'm not like too familiar with everything. I just want to put that out there. I'm just like a little bit familiar with certain things, but I do think that Gretchen from Michigan would be better. But I could be wrong on everything. But I do find them running Gavin Newsom. I don't see them going with Harris. I don't know why.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
But
mean,
in
don't
it,
obviously
yeah,
look,
there's a
your
lot of
instincts are right. The At least on the AOC's Instagram, she was talking about how there is no consensus for those who are
yeah,
looking to get Biden out of the race. There's no
yeah,
consensus on who it should be, and so
yeah.
yeah, I think your instinct, at least Amanda, is right that they may not go with Harris, which again is why I advocate against pushing Biden out. Pushing Biden out is a dumb move. But go on, caller, please.
yeah, personally, I listen, everything I've seen from Kamala Harris is just funny. Like the coconut tree comments and like the 4-minute compilations of her saying what can be unburnable by what has been. Like that's all just funny to me. Um, but yeah, she doesn't like I don't know her record. Like the only thing I've really heard about her is her being a former prosecutor, and I think there's people who allege that she kept people past the release date for prison labor. I've heard that alleged. I have no clue if it's true or not.
I
Um,
heard.
I don't like the idea that we would skip over a black woman to appoint a white male. The idea that Democrats would skip over a black woman vice president to just choose a white male who then couldn't use the money that they raised so far. It'd have to go to a PAC. Uh, yeah, and then Newsom, I think you probably even said this before. Like, if Newsom becomes the nominee, every Republican will just be shitting out images of homeless people in California
Yeah,
nonstop and saying this is going to be everywhere. Look at all the fentanyl deaths. Look at all the tent cities. This is going to become this is going to become everything. And yeah, I have
yeah,
no clue how to make the case for Newsom versus like Biden. I think there's a really strong positive case to be made for, on top of the negative case for Trump.
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well, thank you, dear caller. Is there anything else you have for us before we let you go?
Um, I don't know. I guess one quick broad thing. Do you have any clue what the fuck we do about the Supreme Court, Wick? Because I don't know what to do.
Can't
I
help
don't
you.
know.
I don't know. All right. I'm sorry. I don't know.
God damn it!
Here, just call me in.
They-
Next, you're gonna ask me to solve the Middle East, right? And what's the one trick to make sure there's peace in the Middle East? I don't know. But
yeah.
caller, I'll see you later. Oh man. Asking
That
the
was
deep
actually fun to
questions.
talk about. I guess I could kind of talk about politics if need be.
Oh, well, I'm glad you can because he just tried to. But no, you did fine, I think. Like,
Yeah.
see, here's the thing. A lot of people worry, right? A lot of people worry
Yeah.
about how they're going to do, like, when the spotlight's on them, when they get questions. But you just got to realize that even like news people are just people at the end of the day.
Mhm.
We all got opinions.
Yeah.
As long as you are clear about what you think
Yeah.
and you're honest, I think it's fine. I think everyone
Yeah.
deserves to have opinions and to express them. But yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
let's see.
But no, that was fun.
Yeah,
It
we'll see
was
who
a good
comes
topic.
next.
Yeah.
Hello, you're live. Hello.
There we go. All right, I
Aha.
can hear you fine.
Figured it
Awesome.
out.
It took me a second. I wasn't able to hear from you. Yeah, so great start to things. First person calls in and says, "Hey, I just want to ask you guys what you think about partners." And then the next person is like, "So Trump's assassination and the political implications." Love the hot and cold here. I'm gonna bring it back down a little bit. I got a little bit of a complicated social situation going on. I'm just wondering for some advice. I don't know if you've ever been in a position where one of your friends hates some of your other friends and refuses to do anything with them.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit of a delicate situation, and I'm in that situation right now. Now my birthday's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm planning on doing a little bit of celebration.
When's
and
your
all of my
birthday?
friends are invited. August 1st.
Well, happy
Um,
birthday. You almost made it to the best birthday ever. Okay.
Oh, really?
My birthday is coming up too.
Oh,
It's
when's yours?
July 31st.
Oh, goodness gracious!
That
One
close.
day
That
before me.
Close. But anyway, carry on. Sorry. Just
Happy birthday to you as well, by the way. In case I don't get the chance to say so. But anyway, I'm having a bit of a celebration. Going to be inviting basically everybody that I know to hang out with me for it. But obviously, I've got one friend who really, really dislikes two specifically of my others. And it's rough. I don't know what to do about that. He's made it very clear that he wants nothing to do with them and that he doesn't want to be anywhere around them. I like him personally. I think he's a great guy, and I would hate to miss out on him, but I don't know how to finagle this situation.
Any thoughts, Amanda? I'll let you go. I'll let you take this one first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I would just be wondering why they have a problem with your friends.
Because he considers them manipulative and toxic. And to a certain degree, he's correct. When I say that, I mean in the sense that he has very strong boundaries that he asserts very quickly in relationships, be they friendship or otherwise. And he does not budge on these, which is good. Don't have any problem with that. And in group situations, these other two friends of mine, they're really big on like pushing the envelope, kind of getting people out of their comfort zones, being like, no, let's do this. It'll be funny. It'll be fun. And kind of like seeing, they don't tell people like this is what we're going to do now. They don't take control of the situation, but they're like, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then kind of like adding some social pressure to people to do things that they might not normally want to do. He does not like that about them at all, and he finds it horrible. And he considers it more or less a form of bullying. And I can see his perspective, and depending on sort of the value weight that you put on the actions that they do, I can see someone being like, I don't jive with these people. I don't like them. I don't like what they're about. I get that. I just so I don't think that he's necessarily wrong, but I also don't think that it's a matter of sort of like objectivity that they are in fact bad people because they participate in this behavior. So I don't, I'm not going to get rid of these other two.
No, I get you.
For that.
What do you think, Amanda? What would you do in this situation?
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of you taking into account the opinions and perspectives of your friends, which sometimes is important, but then other times it's sort of like you kind of have to ask yourself how you feel about, this situation personally and how it's affecting you.
So, for me, at least, you know what this means? Means I get two parties. Hell yeah. I get one party with one friend group and another party with another friend group. That solves the issue. Two cakes. Two. Okay? But in a more serious note, right? Like there's this look, I've had friendships where I've had to silo them off from other friend groups, right? Where they did not get along, they did not interact correctly. It just wasn't a good idea. Like I get that you want to have like a bigger bash with everyone involved, but at a certain point, right? If he can't set aside his legitimate, as you described them, feelings to just hang with you guys on your birthday, right? Then just don't invite him. Honestly, say, hey man, sorry, gonna have to have you sit out, and then maybe do something with him another time. That's what
don't know.
I
I
would
feel
do.
like
That's me.
I feel like not inviting him would be a thing. I mean, I want to have a conversation with him about it. Like, listen, man, I'm inviting these other people. I know that you don't like them.
Yeah, just let
They
him
might.
know.
There's a good possibility that they might show up. If that's too much for you, I understand. If you want to have like more of a private situation in terms of like getting together, hanging out, something like that, that's fine. It's the best I can think of. But it's man, it feels so fucking bad
It
not being
does.
able to just like have everybody be there.
But let it be his decision, right? Or their decision. I don't know if it's a guy or a girl. You give him, tell him the information, right? Set the stage. Give him, say, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. You're welcome to join us if you'd like, but if you don't, I get that. And then he gets to decide what it is, right?
I guess that's the best I can possibly hope for.
It is. And you got that advice here on Whick TV. $2 from Adarius to say, what can we as men do that we do not notice?
Is that like a general question?
No. I'll ask Amanda after we're gone. Anything else for us, though, before I send you to the void?
I want to say one
Oh,
more.
go ahead, Amanda.
Oh, sorry. I would just tell him also how you feel. Like, just tell him how you feel about the situation, how this kind of put you in an awkward situation, and how you'd rather, and see how he responds to that, because you might be surprised. Maybe he pulls through for you, and then at that point you can create a stronger, closer bond because he'd understand it's your birthday and not to make it about him. Or maybe he doesn't, and maybe you realize that he's not meant for you. But I would tell him how you feel as well.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No, thanks for calling in, buddy. Bye-bye. Yeah, so Adarius, what do you mean by what can we as men do that we do not notice? What can you elaborate a little bit? Are you talking about what things that men generally do that they don't notice that they do that causes women strife? Or I'm just not sure. As far as courting and relationships, do you want to answer that real quick? Because I can't, because I'm a guy. I don't notice if I'm doing something, I'm not noticing it. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think I would need a more specific example of the unconscious behavior. I don't really have one from like the top of my head.
People are saying, Wick, when I click on your backstage link, the Discord page just goes blank. Did you accept the rules, first of all? If you are having trouble getting in, make sure you've accepted the rules by clicking on my little emoji face. Then try reloading, right? Try reloading Discord. And then you should see backstage at the top, and you should just be able to click on that. And if you can't, I don't know, unfortunately. But fair enough. Let's bring on the next contestant on whatever this is. Hello, you're live.
Well, hello there.
Hi.
How's it going?
Oh, been better, been worse. How are you?
Not bad. GG. I'm about to go with that as a nickname for right now. Your channel or your platform is general advice for guys in the general sense, or do you separate out your advice into like stratas of different types of men?
I think it's just for whoever can relate to the typical advice being said in that video. It's really based on the viewer's experience. Like, everybody has such a different life experience, like they have such different things going on. So I really just like to put out my videos, and then whoever it resonates with or it relates to, I just hope it reaches them.
Okay. And do you think your advice, because I haven't seen this video, right? So this is my first interaction with you. Is your advice normally focused around emotional aspect, or do you deal with problem-focused advice?
Yeah, definitely emotional. I do find that the problem-focused advice, not that it's at all irrelevant, there's definitely space for it. But I even think that that advice could come from a place of emotion. So I really like to get to the root of things, and I do find that the root and the core of things comes from emotion.
Okay. Because as from experience, I have a girlfriend that's we've been around for about a
Does she
year
live
now.
in Canada? Can we meet her?
No, you're never gonna meet her. No, she's not Canadian, because that would be a
Okay.
deal breaker. The big thing is that it's really actually pretty simple to figure out what women want, and I don't know why some guys have an issue with figuring that out. A lot of times you can just ask them in a very roundabout way of how they're feeling that day or dealing with their emotions, and then addressing your behavior based off of that. It's pretty simple.
Hold on, wait a second. Hold on, Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever asked a woman where she wants to go to eat?
No.
Man,
why would I ever do that?
Oh my God, that is like pulling teeth. Hey, where do you want to go to eat today? Oh, I don't know, wherever you'd like. But that's a lie, because it's not wherever you like. It's not. It never is. Because you're like, okay, let's go here, and then they give you that look that says you've made the wrong choice, and you're like, well, fine.
No.
Yeah.
See, the great thing is
Amanda
that...
knows what I'm talking about. Amanda, you can back me up here, right?
I'm not sure specifically with that example. I feel like it depends on the person, but I do think human relationships are very complicated because humans are very complicated.
Okay.
Well, to be fair, my girlfriend really loves McDonald's. I don't have to ask her what she wants because I can already tell what she wants.
Some chicken nuggets. What's her order? What's
yes.
Her, nuggets?
Like 10 nuggets and like a small cheeseburger, and maybe finishes it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. The big thing is that some guys are looking for like the end all be all answer to how to deal with a girl, but the issue is that the girl they're going to be dealing with they haven't met yet, and so the advice is hypothetical until they actually get into figuring out who they're dealing with, and usually that doesn't take place until 2 or 3 months into the interactions with that specific person. Yeah. No disagreement there, or just...
How long have you been dating your girlfriend, if you don't mind me asking?
About a year.
A year? That's good.
Yeah. So now for Whick.
Oh, for me, okay. What you got?
You do understand that him picking JD Vance was actually a reliable pick, right?
No, I think that was yes, of course it was.
Because he's the reason
down on JD Vance, and he should really
JD
Vance forward.
The reason the Teamsters even showed up was because of JD Vance, and him. Like JD Vance has put in a lot of effort in the Rust Belt to ingratiate himself with the Unionists and to pull in that and lock in that vote. Like the pick on JD Vance isn't a nothing burger. It is actually going to slightly help Trump. It won't detract from anything. It definitely will not help the Democrats.
So I live in the Rust Belt, right? I live Pennsylvania. Yeah. I've talked to people around here. I've talked to I live in rural Pennsylvania, so it's very red. No one was happy with this pick, at least not in my inner circle. Anecdotal, I know, right? Anecdotal, I know.
Yeah, definitely.
But it just seems to me that it doesn't help him and does have a lot of risks, especially with some of his more extreme talking points as he's made, such as how he's against abortion even in the instances of rape and things like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much, especially when the great hope for Democrats this election cycle is the abortion issue. I think that risks driving turnout. So Democrats, even if they aren't happy with Biden or even or whoever ends up being the nominee, right? Even if they're unhappy with that, it does risk driving more turnout.
So the big thing is that his personal opinion and how he governs policy is slightly different. He's stated since like earlier this year, like when Trump got on board with the states deciding thing from the first debate, like his position is, I'm comfortable with the states deciding that. I mean, you could say, oh God, JD Vance is going to turn out Democratic support in rally, but we're not seeing that at all. Nobody's actually talking about JD Vance. Everybody's talking about how
right after the assassination attempt and right after
I understand,
stuff,
but we've already tried
to get to it, right? We'll get
MSNBC and like a couple other people are trying to turn it back to Project 2025, but nothing is sticking on that. Everybody's talking about the clusterfuck that is the Democratic Party trying to oust Biden, and Biden continuously saying he's not leaving.
Sure, that's an own goal. Like I don't disagree that's a big problem for Democrats. I just don't think it
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
that means we're not going to be talking about JD Vance. But Amanda, are you trying to get in? What do you got?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't think JD Vance is like necessarily the worst pick. I just think for this election cycle, if Trump went with Nikki Haley, he would have had it more in the bag, if that makes sense.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Nikki Haley was one of the most um, boisterously anti-Trump people, and if he had picked her, it would have been a sign that he was not committed to ousting the establishment elite, according to his own position, because he would just be going back on what he said about Nikki Haley. That would be a sign that Trump wasn't in it to win it.
I meant more for like the centrists and the left point of view that Nikki Haley would have been a better pick.
Maybe, but again, if it's a left and center left, they're not going to pick Trump just because he picked Haley. They're just going to pick Biden because it's closer to what they want.
Okay. Anything else for us today, Artemis? We got a bit
Oh
of
yeah,
lines, so we gotta.
I can already tell you they've already stated if Kamala Harris is the pick, they're going to go grab that one guy that she falsely imprisoned and lied about him being the guilty murderer he won $3 million off of her county or whatever the fuck she was at for false imprisonment
When
and
she was prosecutor in California, you mean?
yeah, and she was using him as a PR stunt to saying, "Hey, look, we solved the serial murderer or whatever the fuck." I don't know, it was serial murder, but it was just a murder that was not found within like 3 or 4 weeks. So they just imprisoned some random African American guy. So that's going to be plastered everywhere, and I doubt. Well, I don't doubt that they're probably going to go ask him to speak about it.
I mean, sure, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is a problem with replacing Biden is anyone we put up there will have untested venues of attack that people can go after. And that makes it a huge, huge risk. But
Yeah.
we could talk about that later, buddy. Thank you for calling in. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Bye.
To the void with him. We like my Artemis is my resident
Cool.
right wing.
Yeah.
Well, he's not really right wing, but like right of center champion, if you will. He's always willing to argue those talking points and things like that. So we like him
Very
here.
cool.
He keeps us out of an echo chamber. So.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
out of just really curiosity before we get the next caller in, did you vote in the last election?
Yes, I did, but I'm not comfortable sharing
Okay,
who.
fair enough, fair enough. It'll be a secret. Don't worry. I've had people in my audience who voted for all sorts of people, but no, I'll keep your secret safe. I'll just DM you later and you can tell me about it. Okay.
I will say the party I'm voting for this time was different than the last time.
Now it's a mystery. So you switched your vote. Can we know why you switched your vote?
No, because then it would give it away.
Okay.
I'm definitely into listening to all sides. Like, it's actually funny that I really do listen to a lot of politics, I'm not gonna lie. I find it all fascinating, especially this election cycle. Like, how could you not? It's phenomenal.
That's
so amazing.
Part of the problem is it's like a soap opera, which is great for entertainment. It's
you only
bad.
get this in America, baby. That you only get this in America.
Okay. Let me bring in the next caller. Hello, you're live.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello? What do you got?
Oh. I wanted to continue the conversation. Like, I watched what you did with Destiny, and I also wanted to continue the conversation you had with Artemis Fowl. The big thing I wanted to talk about is at what point do you think it's time to start breaking rules? Because for me, right, personally, I saw that Supreme Court decision where they just gave full presidential immunity, essentially, to Trump. And I'm at the point where I think a lot of the Democrats should start breaking rules, right? Because they're not playing the same game anymore politically, the Republicans compared to the Democrats.
Okay. So I think that I understand the frustration that it feels like the other side can do things that our side cannot, and it feels like they get away with it. But I want to really stress this. They aren't getting away with it, or at least they haven't for the last 3 election cycles. So in 2018, the Democrats did phenomenally well and outperformed MAGA, outperformed the Republicans. partly because of the norms that were being broken by the Republican Party. Not entirely, right? But partly. In 2020, the same thing. And again, in 2022, everyone thought there would be a huge red wave, but it was stymied because people would not vote, right? Would not vote for the extremist MAGA candidates. They simply wouldn't, despite all the polling. And so I think that what we see here is at least in those 3 cycles, the electorate was in part punishing the people who were doing the extremist things, the extremist actions. I don't think that we are anywhere near a point where I would be okay with quote unquote breaking rules to get my party elected. Because again, I think that the institutions that we have are very important because they help prop up our freedoms and democracy. And when we start opening that box of breaking rules and then we start racing the other side to the bottom, it makes it harder for voters to distinguish between the sides, as well as we lose any moral high ground that we may have. And before you say it, right, and I'll let you go right after this, I think that the moral high ground is pragmatically a good place to be. It makes it more likely that you will have success in the long term. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term. Go ahead, respond. And then I want to hear what Amanda has to say.
Yeah, I somewhat agree with your statements because I understand that we're winning elections, but this election, it might not even matter that we were winning the previous ones, if that makes sense. If Trump pulls off Project 2025, so that's one thing because that's way more institutionally a threat. If he just destroys like so many institutions on his way up, it might not matter, right? Like, so what happens if he like, I don't know, starts like jailing Democrats, right? Like,
I mean,
he
there
launches.
does come a point, right? There does come a point where it's like, okay, now we have to do something else. But we are not at that point yet. And this is a part of the problem, right? Like, everyone can justify, if they try hard enough, some pretty extreme actions, right? And one of the things that I hear from the right, because I have a lot of right people in my audience and a lot of right people I talk to, a lot of right-leaning people in my life, is one of the things I keep hearing is they will point to rule breaking that the left has done, even though they have done it very, very much less than the right. And I agree with that. And they will say, look at what the left did to us. Now we have to do it to them. And what I'm now hearing from the left is, look at what the right's doing to us. Now we have to do it to them. And that concerns me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I still like want to stress this though, that but if they break the rules and they win and they just keep breaking rules to the point that like we what if we need to strike first is what I'm saying to
we
win,
need to
right?
strike
And
first. Then we
yeah.
lost. If we are at a point where we have to quote unquote strike first or we lose, we've already lost. We've already lost. It's a fail state. We are in a place where we have lost, and I don't think there is hope. But here's the thing. I don't think we're even near that place. Even if Trump wins come 2024, even if he wins, there are plenty of things that we can do to, again, win again. Like, we're not in a lot of people will fearmonger about what Trump will do in 2024. And I know he's going to try, but he tried in 2020, and our institutions held firm. And I think that we underestimate the strength of our institutions here. And I get why we do. And look, I don't want to test it. I could be wrong, right? I think there's like a 5% chance, maybe a 10% chance I'm wrong. And I really don't want to roll those dice. But I just want people to kind of like keep things into perspective. There will be other chances, and we can roll these things back if we need to. But let's hear what Amanda has to say to this. I want to get her in on this. What do you think? Rule breaking and violence. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't have I kind of don't have like a really good viewpoint on this. I do think that both sides are worried about democracy though, which is very interesting. It's not just like the left or it's not just like the right. It's like both sides are feeling like our democracy is undermined in this election, which I find interesting. But other than that, I don't really have anything.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, the difference is, I feel like the left, if you read like the Supreme Court documents, it's like it's much more based in evidence. When the right is like talking about like anti-vax conspiracy theories and like just like I don't know, I hate trans people and anti-woke shit. Like it doesn't feel like we're living even on the same planet. Like I don't even know. Do you guys even know any of their policy positions? I genuinely don't know besides Project 2025. Like I think that's their policy positions right now, right?
So what I would encourage you to do is to reach out to some right-leaning people, offline preferably, online if you must, and just talk to them, like do things with them, have a normal conversation, and they will tell you much better than I can. Because I agree with you overall that the right is way worse than the left. I agree. We don't have an argument there. I worry about the people who are drumming up this kind of like extremist, like fear-mongery kind of stuff, and that is going to cycle because the right is absolutely doing that too. Unfortunately, the right doesn't listen to me, and the left kind of does. So I can't really tamp it down on the right. We're gonna have to ask someone else to do that, but I can at least keep my side from going off the rails. Okay. Anything
I understand
else?
what you. I understand where you're getting at. Where it's like if we just start like if we veer too much off, we're gonna lose like our initial virtues. But I just feel like if it feels like they're taking advantage of a lot of the left's like virtues, like especially this like shooter thing, the assassination plot. It was a Republican a conservative who shot at Trump, and they're like demanding all the liberals apologize, right? That feels weird. Like, I mean, I don't want to do like victim blaming, but it is kind of their own fault for a lot of the rhetoric, and I'm wondering if they're just like not gonna. I might be wrong on this, but if we continue playing by the rules continuously,
Well, what are you gonna
it,
do?
it
How would you personally break the rule? What would you
Yeah.
do?
One thing I'll also say, if you don't mind me chiming in,
Please.
but one thing I will also say about like because I completely like the left, Trump's been denying the election, which is a threat to our democracy. But with Trump's almost assassination, even if it was human error at the end of the day, you know how a lot of people on the right sort of explain that um, if Trump was still president, that Putin wouldn't have gone to war with Ukraine. Like, I completely disagree with that. However, one thing that actually does make our country look bad is not necessarily Trump not being a president, but rather it was that assassination. I do think worldwide that that attempted assassination rather made America look a little bit more weak. Genuinely, I do think that that around the world, so that definitely had an impact on our political cycle.
yeah. So what I would do, I actually feel like Biden's kind of coming close to that. He's doing like a little bit of half measure. Is I would actually start stacking the Supreme Court. That's like that would be my number one thing, and I would do it in a legal manner. I would try to do it through
Okay.
Congress, essentially. Like when I mean breaking, I don't. When I mean breaking rules, I don't mean like going out and rioting and killing right-leaning people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like institutionally, we try to start changing the rule book as well. So stacking the Supreme Court, maybe a little bit more extensive executive orders, is another thing that veer on a like because you know how it has to go through the courts, right? A lot of executive orders, so you can get things done through those executive orders before they're struck down, essentially. So I would be more aggressive on those things. Like in particular, I just feel like it's really hard. Like, let's say you're a trans person today, and you hear Dave Rubin talking about how he wants to kill trans people, essentially, right? On like some of his videos. I feel it's really hard for them to be like, oh yeah, like let's just sit around and hope that my vote, wins the election when they're taking away my rights. Like, it's very difficult for me to, especially if you're like in those positions, to like kind of buy the idea. Just trust the institutions.
Well, we're
Does that
not.
make
No
sense?
one's advocating just trust the institutions. What I'm advocating
Or I
for
mean, like,
people to
just keep
do
following the institutional
is
rules. You know what I
is
mean?
is do what I think would be the best path to us winning the election in 2024. But thank you for calling in, sir. We got a bit of a line, and our friend here has limited time. But I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right.
Bye bye.
I could
Okay.
probably go for a little bit longer, by the
Okay.
way.
You can stay as long as you like. I'm not gonna kick you out, right? But right, it's up to you. But here's the thing: is like, I I understand the fear that people have. I get it. But as the prophet said, fear is a mind killer, okay? Right? Fear is a mind killer. If you let it run your life, if you let it make your decisions for you, it's going to be a problem. Now, some fear is healthy, but I think that if we are so afraid that we are looking to do extra legal procedures to break the rules, break the institutions, to try to save the institutions, that's just wrongheaded. I think it's a bad idea. But yeah, let's bring on the next caller, see what they have to say. Hello, you're live. You are live right now with us today.
Well, sorry for making your stream 20% more cringe, but I got something real quick.
What you got?
Have you heard of post-profit for they talk about media?
Say that last part again.
Have you heard of a phrase being like called post-profit media?
Post-profit
Where
media. I have not. Explain it.
where maybe one of the reasons our media sucks so bad this time, because profit is no longer the goal; it's the message.
Man, I don't know. Like, I wish that I was in a position where I didn't have to worry about profit. Like, I'm not though. And
Oh, that'd be
speaking of which,
nice.
thank you for the $7. Way not to be black pilled. Well, thank you for the $7 statutory ape. Really appreciate it. But I've not heard the term, but I'm familiar with the concept. I just don't know
And
how it would
the
work.
Acolyte viewership being one of the lowest Disney's had, yet they're not going to change, and that makes me worried that media is only getting worse from here.
Maybe. What do you think, Amanda?
So
Do you think
that's
media
it.
sucks now? What's the last show you've watched that you've enjoyed, Amanda?
I kind of like reality TV, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh
It sounds kind of
no!
bad.
Oh
No, there's no
no!
writing in that. Oh wait, never mind.
No, but yeah, in terms of the media, I think most Americans don't trust the media these days. Do I think all media is corrupt? No, not at all. But, I mean, like a little bit corrupt, sure. There's corruption and everything, but I think that the fact that most Americans don't trust our media is pretty bad.
Oh, more specifically, entertainment, not so much reporting.
So like people are putting out things like that, shows that don't get very good reviews, don't get very good support, and they push it out anyway to push a message, or why? Question.
I think it's more message related because it seems like it doesn't matter how much money they bleed, they just keep doing it anyway. Almost like they have an infinite money pool. It's got to run out eventually, don't you?
Man, I wish I had an infinite money pool. If I had an infinite money pool, I'd be making all sorts of shows that would be so bad, but I would enjoy them. Look, so, I mean, does it have to run out? Not necessarily. People keep giving them money for various reasons. But, buddy, thank you for calling in. Is there anything else you have to say to us?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Man, reality TV, though? Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, some of it.
What's your favorite reality TV show?
I watched a lot of The Housewives. I
Well,
mean, it's just fascinating psychology. Like, just to be so for real. I mean, it's super fascinating.
wait, hold on. Settle a bet for me. Are you into true crime?
No.
Oh, see
I
that.
get it. I like horror movies though. I do like a lot of horror movies. Like,
Okay.
I'm big into the lore of horror movies, especially old ones. Like, I grew up with a dad that was big into 70s everything, and basically when I was like in second grade, I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the
Oh, the
original.
gore stuff.
And
Okay, fair enough.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so my dad's like met Jamie Lee Curtis before. Like we
Mm.
have like a lot of the original Halloween stuff, and like I was basically indoctrinated into loving horror movies since a very young age. I'm
Hey,
not gonna
nothing
lie.
wrong with it. I love a good horror movie. Did you see Long Legs? It's recently come out.
I did see
Did
Long
you
Legs,
like
yeah.
it?
It was kind of unoriginal. I liked the acting. Like I enjoyed following the story, but it was slightly unoriginal for me. I kind of thought meh in comparison to a lot of the ratings.
Interesting. I thought it was great. It gave me. You're right about it. It was a little tropey, and it was a little predictable. But I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing. I thought it was well done, well acted, well
Yeah.
written. So I gave it a
Yeah.
solid A. But let's bring on the next
Yeah.
caller. See
I
what they have to
definitely agree. It
say.
was very well acted. I completely agree.
Of course you do. I'm right. Hello. What do you got for us?
How you doing, sir?
Oh, so far so good, but there's still plenty of time for things to go horribly wrong.
Oh,
What do we have?
that's the mod of my life. Can't complain. Doesn't mean I won't. Um, I just want to talk about. I remember it was last week or earlier this week. You had that debate about the institutions,
Sure. Yeah.
and I felt like you guys got dragged a little bit too much into the nitty gritty of who did who, which I think one of your previous callers kind of fell into the same trap of trying to find where the other side has wronged them and just keep going back because each side can just keep going back and back.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I agree. Like there's people are too focused on who started it and not who's gonna fix it. But go on.
mhm. I think what we need to do actually is just look at what is. We talk about our institutions. We don't define what our institutions. We don't talk about what their purpose is. We just kind of assume they're there as if they're entities that exist. Do you have a definition of what an institution is?
Oh man, off the top of my head, you really put me on the
I was just
spot.
about to ask, like, do
So
you have a definition? Because I don't know personally.
well, institutions vary in mission and scope. What an institution, when I'm thinking of it, I'll give you some examples. The academia is an institution, right? Where you have universities, science papers, like Nature magazine, all these things, right? That would be
Yeah.
an example of an institution. The media is another example of an institution, even though there's a lot of different types of media out there, a lot of different styles of media. I don't think all media is part of the institutional media, but I think that things like MSNBC, Fox, etc., are part of the what I would consider the institution that is the media. And then we have other institutions. The FBI is an institution. The police is an institution. It's basically organizations that work towards a goal or at least enforce some sort of norm, which could be
Yeah.
good or bad. That's sloppy, but it's what I got off the top of my head.
I mean, and you're right
Well,
that
that's
it's a broad
that's
thing. But what
good.
I'm hearing is that you think an institution is what tries to accomplish a goal. I
Or
think what
to like
Like a
regulate
common
a
goal.
process, right? Like the FDA is an institution, right?
Mhm.
It's going to regulate a process, and usually for a very good reason, sometimes for a very poor reason, right? But that's what an institution is.
I think I think this kind of hits on what a lot of problems are. Is that you're correct on that. I think you're just halfway there. Because I think when I look into it and when I've read uh, I mentioned in a super chat a long time ago that Yuval Levin's book on this brings this definition of adding it's formative, is that it forms its members to its goal. And I think that's where we're failing because a lot of these institutions like Congress aren't formative to making congressmen or statesmen. They're a platform for people to do their, I think someone calls it the Parliament of Pundits. And I think that's a good definition of what we
Oh,
have right now in our Congress.
I mean, sure, maybe. Like here's the thing, like with when it comes to institutions, I'll say this. I think that the institutions, at least many of them, have failed us in a very real way. There's a reason that trust in American institutions is at an all-time low. I think that in part, at least, it's because a lot of them have failed in their public trust. So the media, for example, has failed over and over and over again, and all sides can point to this in ways that the media has misled or crafted narratives that have just been turned out to be entirely wrong. They have no accountability. There's no real changes that they make after they get things wrong. They just exist. Another institution that I think has failed us is academia, and I think it's failing men right now. We can see more and more
Yeah.
men dropping out of academia and distancing themselves from academia. Now, the other issue, right, the other reason that institution trust is at an all-time low is because we have people who are incentivized to create and foment distrust in these institutions so they can offer themselves up as an alternative, a lucrative alternative. And I think that these things play off each other to varying degrees to create the situation that we have today. What are your thoughts on this, Amanda?
I agree. Especially with the academia aspect. I'm a social worker, or I'm in school to become a social worker outside of what I do on YouTube, which is interesting because, like, weirdly enough, it both kind of correlates. You're working one-on-one with people of like all different types of ages and backgrounds, but nonetheless, I've worked in the academic institution before, and oh my gosh, like, do I second that? There's so much corruption within public school systems, especially with kids and everything, but like not typically heard in the media. Like I'm specifically talking about things that, in my experience with the teaching aspect as well, like kids aren't learning, especially post COVID. We have a lot of like corners that teachers are cutting, and I think what makes a good teacher is very dependent on the teacher. Like there's some phenomenal human beings in the teaching profession that are just amazing and like saving kids' lives. But there's also human beings that are within the teaching profession that are taking advantage of young kids and young boys, and I have seen that firsthand. And then there's
Can
some.
you give us an example of that? Just
Um, yeah, I kind of hold back from talking about it on my YouTube channel because I'm not trying to get myself into like legal trouble, and I'm not really like too much at a state where I can
if
like
this
talk
will
about
get
my
into
past.
legal trouble to talk about, don't talk about it. Just we can
Yeah,
skip it.
yeah. Like I've worked at a school before and it wasn't the best experience. I do plan to talk about it one day, but not until I know that I'm like completely free to talk about it. But yes, like there's definitely corruption within academia and what we teach as well. Like, and I'm not talking about some right rhetoric either. No, like I'm not. That's not what I'm necessarily talking about. I'm just talking about certain things like in terms of emotional intelligence. Like it's just surprising that we just don't teach people about love and connection and the importance of that. And I know it sounds kind of like
what would a
silly,
class
but
on love look like? I'm trying to think of
I
one. I
don't think
just
that like
Don't upset
it's
lives of
not.
TikTok.
Yeah, I don't think that we can implement it. I'm not saying that we should, but I'm saying like when you cut down to the bare bones of reality, you can understand why people are so, behind when we don't talk about something as basic as like the meaning of life, in a class.
as basic as the meaning of life. The meaning of life is something we've been
Basic.
arguing about, that we've been discussing for thousands and thousands of years. I don't know if, like, what are we supposed to teach on that? I don't even know. What's the meaning
Uh,
of life to you? Give us a one sentence meaning of life. Go ahead.
well, it depends on like everybody's experience, but I guess what I
For
meant
you,
by
I'm
that,
asking you, Amanda.
the meaning of life for me, I
Yeah.
mean like I I guess what I was more so talking about is just more so what we don't teach in our schools. Like, it's just no surprise that people have struggles with mental health issues. And I get that a class on love sounds kind of like stupid, but in the grand scheme of life, it's like, what else are we all here for?
Fair enough. Fair
What
enough.
else do we strive and struggle and feel things for? It's not just to pay our taxes and die, even though that's the way the system is set up. So it's no wonder why so many people are depressed.
You know what I think makes people feel better? Liking the channel, subscribing to the channel, and sending me donations. You'll get a warm, fuzzy feeling. Will it fix all your problems? I can't say either way. Maybe. I don't know. You don't know. You should try and see, dear viewer.
It
But
won't not fix your
thank you
problems.
for calling in, buddy. Do you have anything else for us?
No, that'll be it. You can kick me to the void.
To the void. I don't look. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what a class on love would look like, and I'm struggling. Like, I understand what you're trying to say about how there's more to life than simply grinding it out or being a worker bee. I get that. I just don't know if school's the place to teach about that. I think this is something that people have to find out. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. And I'm not saying that there should be either. I was just giving that as an example as to why so many people maybe are unhappy because like we and it's also corruption within science. I don't want to get too into it though because I really can't speak on it, but there's a lot of unique things going on and it's just at the
Well,
end of the day we do have a
I'm
lot of mental.
curious, but we'll talk when the screens are off, right? I'll pick your brain on this, but fair enough. Let's you said you had a little more time, so let's grab a couple more callers, try to get to as many as we can. Let's see who is next.
And again, I am a relationship coach, so if anybody wants to talk about relationships, that'll be awesome too.
What do you got for us?
Yo, what is?
Oh, you muted yourself.
Is this good?
Yes, you're good now. What do you got?
You know, it's interesting. I tuned in late, and the first thing I heard, which seems to be an impetus, a compulsion of Democrats, progressives, people on the left, is when faced with mistrust of public institutions, when confronted with disappointment at the ballot box, the impulsive answer is, well, let's stack the court. Well, let's abuse executive authority. If we can't get immigration reform, let's have President Obama, after acknowledging that he doesn't have the constitutional authority to do so, let's get him to enact DACA and DAPA. Right? Those were companion immigration executive orders. One struck down as unconstitutional. So why don't we legislate from the executive branch? Why don't we legislate from the courts? And then why don't we also bemoan that there is lack of trust in our institutions? It's a curious impulsiveness that I don't quite understand among progressives and Democrats. I certainly don't think stacking the court is an answer to any perceived problem, real or imagined. It's a wild impulse to say we ought to upend the full institution, and we ought to stack it with political appointees because we don't like political decisions. How does that make sense? It doesn't.
Hi. So I agree with you. Packing the court is a bad idea. It's one of those things where when you start to degrade these institutions and break these norms, it does have knockoff effects. It again initiates a race to the bottom. So I think while we probably disagree on who's doing this more, I think that I agree with you in the principle of it's a bad idea. Any
Well,
thoughts?
it's the impulsiveness that just kind of charges me up because it either reflects a lack of imagination, right? Or it reflects a more a more I don't want to say evil because that's not the right word, but a more negative outlook, right, on the function, on the scope of what government ought to be, and rather than a government, existing to perform specific services, instead it's used as a mill or a grinder to impose, right, beliefs that can't be won through elections.
Okay. Any thoughts on this, Amanda?
Mm-mm.
Nope. Okay. Thank you for calling in, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
Hey, Wick.
Always a pleasure. Will the next guy have relationship advice? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're going to
Yeah,
try.
that's the thing, my political knowledge only goes so far. I'm not at all like a political acclaimed person.
What do you got for us?
What's going on there, Wiki baby?
Oh, you know how I do. What are you doing, sexy?
Oh, okay. This is a two-prong question. Two-prong attack here. All right. So, I work blue collar. I work construction. I've worked it for about 19 years. Okay. I've pitched to you before. I'm the one that pitched to you before about, and I mean this with every ounce of my liberal being, that progressivism needs to be distanced from liberalism. Okay. And I say this only because progressivism, it literally translates, and I'm speaking to you as someone I'm speaking as someone that understands a very strong understanding of how the blue collar mind works. All right. Blue collar typically runs conservative. All right. Not in every instance, but typically runs. Now, there's a stereotype that I find to be preposterously true. I found how accurate it is to be true. The biggest divide between left and right, on the weakness of left, the weakness of right, of the personality type of the people within it. The the right winger is typically stupid. The left winger is typically a coward. And if you look at the way that translates across, right, like every liberal is scared to death to be called a racist or a fill in an ist or an ism. They're terrified of it, right? Right wingers don't care if you call them that. They're not cowards. However, they are stupid and they tend to be gullible and naive. That's why it'll start with a con man telling them truthful things, like, progressivism has totally destroyed masculinity. All they've done is created disenfranchised young men. They say true things, but the prescription is join Hustler's University with Andrew Tate and cheat on your wife, and it'll be based, right? And they buy it. They believe it.
Okay. Let me ask this maybe. And this is.
Do you understand what I'm getting at with
I do.
progressivism is cancer for the culture. Like at least in a non-sophisticated way, it is cancer. People are immediately repulsed by it.
Let me ask this. Do you, Amanda, and this is to you, Amanda, do you think that in your experience as a dating coach, which side has a harder time getting the maidens, if you will? Is it the right or the left?
It's both. You can't really call on either side.
What's the biggest problem for right-wing men, and what's the biggest problem for left-wing men? Is it cowardice on either side, or what?
No, it's usually similar, like, just not feeling like you're worthy is, like, really a lot of it comes down to self-worth, but it's also very hard to generalize because a lot of people have a lot of different life experiences, and that's one of the main things that I try to be, good about on my channel is the lack of generalization, because I do think that generalization overall, just in terms of, like, the life itself, like, I just don't think, I think our minds as humans are capable of taking in more nuanced than we typically think. Like, we typically think in a black and white way, but I think as humans we're capable of understanding more nuance, but it's just like, it's up to how far you're willing to go with that.
So I guess to the caller, I think that to your point of the progressivism and liberalism needs a divorce, I agree.
More to the point, liberalism needs to put progressivism in check. There's nothing inherently bad about progressive values. The application, on the other hand, is nothing but pure sanctimony.
I will say that extremism needs to be put in check. I will agree with you there. But here's a problem.
I don't differentiate between the two in application. This is what I'm getting at. Like, you can't lecture or coerce people into accepting something that defies all of their worldview. It doesn't work, right? It can't work. You can't guilt people into accepting. I mean, let's say
the Catholic Church would disagree, but fair enough.
Well, but then again, but the Catholic Church isn't basing it in factual reality. They're basing it on faith, right? Which is effectively what progressivism is asking people to do. Also, I mean, like, use trans for an example, right? It's like you have to have faith that there is this thing going on in their mind that's convincing them they are in the wrong gender, in the wrong body. Meanwhile, what it appears to be from people who work blue collar jobs, what they see, I came up with this example the other day. I really think it fits here, even if it sounds harsh and it sounds uncouth. when trans is explained to regular blue collar people that don't work about this, what happens is you've seen those costumes, the horse costumes that two people get in, right? And
like a horse, like a
costume. A
yeah.
horse
No, I know
costume,
what you're
yes.
talking about. Like, are you?
Okay, well, hear me out. Hear me out. So what
I'm
happens?
waiting to hear where you're going with this. I'm
That's
really
where I'm
curious.
going. All right, just bear with me here. Bear with me. All right. So there's two people in the horse costume, and they're out in the pasture, and they're prancing around, and people look at it and say, "That is two people in a horse costume." And then the progressive comes out and says, "Well, I'm going to quote Destiny here, and I love Destiny. He is Omega based. I don't even care. I think his take on the shooting thing is factually correct and metaphorically distasteful, but it's still factually correct. I'm in the same camp. I don't give a shit. Okay, but but they'll cart out a PhD that says, well, what do you know? Like when you say a table, does a table have 4 legs? Does it have 2 legs? Look at a horse. Does it have a mane? Does it have a tail? Does it have these? How can you even determine? How can you even specify what that is? The English language is so complex. And what the blue collar person heard is everything you said is true, and that's still two people in a costume, right? Like you can dress up and fancy up the language as much as you want, but if you don't pass, that's what it is to their mind, and you can't guilt them out of it, right? So this is what I'm getting at as far as progressivism tends to try to coerce people into believing something their eyes are refusing to believe, and then guilt them into it, right? And then the media apparatus just hammers the point home.
I think
this is why I'm saying liberalism needs to put progressivism in check.
Look, I agree and I disagree at the same time. This is going to be something that we'll need to talk about at length in another venue. But I think that, like, at the end of the day, I'll just say this before I'll send you to the void here.
Do you understand my analogy, though? Do you get it?
I understand what you're saying. Yes. I don't know if
right.
I
It looks like a man in a woman's costume.
I don't know if I agree, however, because I think it's more.
Well, no. I'm not saying it's not polite. I'm not saying it's not rude. I'm not saying it's not cruel. But what I'm getting is if you guilt people into it, if you just tell them that
sure, yeah,
they're
you got to convince them. You can't just punish them.
You
if
have
they
to
don't
reason
agree.
it into them.
I agree
You have
with
to
that.
reason it into them, and you have to right like this. I'm not interested. Listen, the Republican Party is gone. Okay, they worship. They have dried stains all over their chin from their orange leader. Okay, they're not coming back. All right, not for a while.
Okay.
So we need a better left.
No, I agree with you. Yes, we do need a better left. Thank you for calling in, sir. Bye-bye.
All right.
Okay, here, before I pull in another guest, I'm going to just ask. Gang, if you have relationship questions, I'm going to prioritize you, okay? Let me ask you this, Amanda, while people get that into gear. What is the most common issue that men have when they come to you for advice? Like, what is the biggest hang up they have when they...
Yeah, great question, because I forgot to bring this up. Like, I only brought up the self-worth aspect, but there is a huge loneliness epidemic going on right now. There's a huge lack of human connection. I just think that this is a lot in part to due to technology and the nature of way reality is becoming, but I do think that there's a major human connection problem as well.
Fair enough. What seems to be the hang up, though? Why can't people connect?
I think it goes so deep. I think it can go as deep within a modern family household, depending on the situation. But I think that nowadays people are more disconnected emotionally and more guarded than ever before. And that's not necessarily anybody's fault, but we're all humans. And what makes us human is other humans and it's other connections. So
yeah.
I think it's important not to forget that.
Fair enough. And gang, yes, you can call in about anything, but we've had a lot of political questions, and I want to make sure that we get some relationship questions. Soyadl said he had a relationship question, so let's bring him in. Hi, you're live.
Hey, let me
Hi,
get my
what do you got?
Camera on. Mute the stream. All right. I know there's I'm going to be non-specific at first because I know there's a lot of juicy opportunities that I'm not necessarily ready for. But some of you know that I'm in a relationship with a bit of an age gap, and I want a little check-in on not that, but a bit of how to cope with conflict in terms of a partner's hypocrisy. And for example, if
Just she
someone says
doesn't
they
get the
care,
Happy Meal, okay? That's it, right? Just make
right,
sure you're
I said
stern.
you've
you
had
make sure you put
you've
her in a
had
car
20
seat,
nuggets,
okay?
you've had your 20 nuggies. You gotta settle down. But no, seriously, the so saying expressing that, for instance, you are really careful about something and really you really demand something in your partner, and then you demonstrate the opposite in your own behavior, like, oh, I really want to be careful around my place, I want it to be really clean, and then they come to my place and they're a pig about it, and I'm just like, well, okay, something like that. How do you approach this? How do you set better standards? How do
How
you
do you set
advocate for yourself
boundaries?
in a constructive way?
Go ahead, Amanda. How would you advise him to set his boundaries in his relationship?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds like a bit of hypocrisy, but hey, I'd be a hypocrite if I said I've never engaged in hypocrisy before. You know what I mean? It's tricky for sure. And there's no need to feel unforgiving, unless like you're feeling very, with the example you gave, that to me is more just like a problem of hypocrisy, not necessarily they're emotionally, even though that can emotionally hurt,
Hey,
it's
just
not
real quick,
necessarily.
non-fun 420. Thank you for the raid. Really appreciate it. Okay, carry on.
But yeah, I would say that it's what's fair is fair in quotes, but at the same time, relationships are very feelings based. So just sort of getting a check in on feelings, maybe why is this happening? Why are these expectations being met on one side and not the other? Because a lot of times our emotions come from some other place, has nothing to do with the situation at hand. So just kind of
Right.
investigating that and then asking for, what asking that it ends moving forward.
Right. Okay. I'm kind of there. I didn't want to go like full ham, but it is sort of like a situation where I'm saying, are you doing this because you're upset with me and I don't want to overanalyze, I don't want to play games. I've been through the ringer on relationships. So we're going to set boundaries. We're going to overcome this because I don't have time for games like that.
I think, if I may, I think that it's one of those things that bluntness is a tool. It obviously can't come off as too aggressive, or that risks, if it wasn't a problem, now it is, right? Like if you're too aggressive, like what wasn't a problem before, wasn't really an issue, now suddenly is an issue because you've been aggressive about it. But I think at a certain point you just have to say, hey, look, here's the rules, or here's my boundaries. Here's what I want. You know what I want. I've communicated that to you. I've told you directly, and you're still fucking around with me. Why? And I think having that conversation is just something you have to do. I don't know. That's my advice from not a relationship coach and just a look here. No, that's not true. I work as a streamer who gets people into the same room from across a political divide. If I'm not a relationship coach, I don't know what I am, because oh my God, trying to get people with very different views to actually sit and have a conversation is one of the most difficult things, I think, in media today. But yeah,
That takes a lot of skill for sure.
it's true. Soyaddle, anything
right.
else?
Yeah, it's a real shame that we have so much political misinformation flying around. I really wish someone would have set better standards for us as an American people. I'm so sad. I'm so sad that people are asking for the ballistics on the bullet that killed the fireman. I'm so sad that people are asking about like who really shot the fireman. I'm just disappointed that we as Democrats are spreading misinformation when we've been subject to that. So I hope someone gets on that one day soon.
Seattle, thank you for calling in. Man, can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
How long have you been doing this coaching stuff?
Oh gosh, I started in the beginning of 2022.
What
So
made
over
you
2 years.
what I get here, this might come off across as blunt, but I am just curious. Like why should people listen to you? What makes you qualified, quote unquote, to be a relationship coach? Are you in a relationship?
I don't feel comfortable
Fair enough.
answering
Fair
that. If
enough.
that's,
Okay.
um, well, I guess, I've been in this space for a long time. Before I even started my YouTube channel, I was listening to the manosphere, if you will. And just beyond that, I've struggled myself with a lot of self-worth issues and a lot of loneliness and a lot of things that I found, like this just feels like a purpose of mine. Why should you listen to me? Well, 'cause I feel as though I'm very in terms of what I've been through, I feel very genuine about what I'm speaking about.
Okay. I mean, you're doing well. I've seen some of your videos, right? They get pretty good numbers. So no, I mean, people are listening. Do you have any success stories that you can share with us?
Success stories of men
Yeah, well, the men you've helped. Yeah.
that I've coached. I mean, yeah, like I definitely men that I've coached, they've started relationships with women and things of this nature. But this is a lifelong process, the healing journey and the dating journey. It's not, this is what I mean by like the human mind needs to know that it's capable of advancing beyond the black and white into the nuanced because nothing is easy in life. So relationships aren't just like something that you fight up the mountain for and once you get to the top it's all smooth sailing from there. Unfortunately, it's not. It's the climb the entire time, and loneliness is only half the battle, but I think it's the hardest half, to be honest. Yeah.
Hard. Well, no, being lonely is difficult. I get it. I do. Let's bring on. I think we have two more guests, and then we'll call it quits. Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's bring on Origin. You're live. Okay, so you got to save this guy. He is in desperate need of your advice. Origin, the floor is yours.
Is he speaking? Because I can't hear
I
him.
can't hear you either if you're speaking as well. Okay. Well, I guess he wasn't ready. Hello, you're live. You're muted. Oh, wonderful. These last two guests have been great.
Oh, you're live.
Oh, yeah, you're live. Okay, you're good. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. What do you have?
Okay. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So what I want to say here, I mean, is there like a specific topic at hand, or
Well,
no?
not like specifically, but we would like it if you had any thoughts on relationships or anything of that nature. That would be preferred.
Oof. Unfortunately, what I would have to say has nothing to do with that, and it has everything to do with everything going on with Destiny. So I don't.
Well,
Yeah.
give us what
I'm-
you got. I mean, you're our second to last guest, so you might as well just give us what you
Okay.
got.
So, you already know I DM'd you Sunday about how I was feeling with the whole situation with Destiny. Um, but I mean, ever since then, I have kind of been feeling a lot more conflicted about how I feel because I've seen videos of him being on Twitter Spaces and stuff like that. Um, and myself, I've kind of felt myself getting a bit angry, especially when it comes to the whole
When you
conversation
say
going
angry,
on.
what do you mean? Like at what specifically?
at people when it comes to
Mind if I run
January
to the
6th,
bathroom real
mainly.
quick?
Oh, go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom. You're not a prisoner. Go ahead. Anyway, continue.
I guess when it comes to January 6th, and it's not just my feeling about a streamer. It's just in general having to do with, I guess, two things: the double standards of conservatives and liberals, and how sloppy conservatives are able to be compared to liberals, and one of the instances having to do with how accepted it is in that space to have to basically deny the insurrection. Basically, that's what I'm.
Well, that's what you're
That's
angry about. Well, what's your question or what's your thought that you want to talk about today?
I don't know. It's like when you were talking with Destiny. I guess my question would be what, like, with his feeling on the firefighter or whatever, like what do you think his general thoughts on the whole entire thing is? Like, do you think trying to collect my thoughts here. Do you think he is like I guess rejoicing what happened, or do you
Oh man. Okay, so when I was talking to him, it was definitely he he didn't seem sad about it. He didn't seem sorry about it, and he felt, I think, and again, I'm not Destiny. You should probably ask Destiny what Destiny thinks. But what I
yeah,
gathered from the conversation was that he was frustrated that the right had been doing all these things that he considered were beyond the pale, and as soon as he makes jokes or talks about the right in any way, shape, or form that's edgy, that people got mad at him. But I think that he falls into the trap of contrarianism and falls into the trap of being edgy just to push back. And I think he's wrong when he celebrates harm that comes to others. I just do. I think that nothing
I mean,
excuses it, right? Nothing excuses it. I can
I don't think
understand it,
he's
but
like.
it's not excusable. It's not something I can condone.
I mean, I don't think he's being contrarian. I think that's something he like actually feels. Like he actually feels like the people that are in that rally are like actually supporting
Yeah,
an insurrection.
that's horrific
Right
if
away.
he does. If he feels like anyone who goes to a Trump rally or anyone who supports Trump is like they don't it doesn't matter if they live or die, that's a horrific place to be. That's a horrific stance, to be clear.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not like I mean, and it's not like I agree with his optics. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I don't agree with his optics at all. Like, you know, I guess
Okay.
my position on it is that I understand where he's coming from, and why he feels the way that he feels.
I think that
But
this is unfortunately, this is a situation where there's plenty of people that are like you, but I think it's a problem that, and I don't, please don't take this personally. It's not an attack, right? But
okay,
there is a problem that people have decided that the other side has crossed this line and they're no longer, to a certain degree, human, and that is it's
hold on,
gonna
hold on. Let
send
me
us
let me
down a
address
bad path. Does that make
let me
sense?
address let me address something. Big
Just real
Nick, I
quick,
don't
and then we
talk.
gotta get to the last caller. So,
Okay, Big Nick, I don't talk to women because I'm literally gay. Okay,
oh, are you
I'm
talking
I'm,
to
I'm
chat? Okay, I don't care about chat. Uh,
a
anything for
base.
the class before we have to go?
Yeah, nothing else. But I mean
Thank you
that's
for
kind of
calling.
all I wanted to know. Yeah.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.
How you feeling? How you holding up?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. I'm gonna try Origin one more time. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yes, you're live.
Wick, I have a question. You ready?
Floor is yours, buddy.
How are you going to react when Trump wins the re-election this November?
I'll be sad.
Why?
I don't want him to win. That's all.
But why?
Ooh. Because I think that his policies will be worse for the country.
What policies?
Such as him trying to be dictator for a day. That's probably a bad idea. I think that his rhetoric also is divisive and promotes political violence. I think that his stated goals of like Agenda 47, give that a read. I don't think it's a very good idea. I think that his choices of J.D. Vance is also a very dangerous pick. J.D. Vance has said things like he's not okay with abortion in terms of when it comes to instances of rape, even, which is just a no-go for me. I think also that they've talked, J.D. Vance specifically has talked about replacing bureaucrats to be yes men. And I know I'm paraphrasing, that's not an exact quote, but that's pretty much what he said. We saw a clip on it in my channel. For all these reasons and more, and the fact that Trump will not, I think, stand up to Putin like I think Biden has, and Trump will be significantly worse than Biden has on Israel Gaza. Those are just some of the reasons why I am not voting for President Trump. And that's it. Thanks for calling, buddy. Do you have anything for Amanda here?
Sorry, I'm not aware of Amanda, so I don't have any questions for her. Sorry.
Okay, bye-bye. You're not aware of Amanda. She's right here. She's not a ghost, gang. Joe Lewis has a relationship question to save us from politics. Are you okay with Joe Lewis coming in?
Okay. I'm definitely okay.
Okay, Joe Lewis. Oh, he's deafened. Oh, there he is.
What's up?
Okay, what you got? What you got for us, sir?
Yo, these politic questions, bro. God damn. How do you sit through that? It's all good. Especially Origin. Damn. I'm gonna speak twice. It's crazy. All right. So am I ready to cook? How you doing, Wick, by the way? It's good seeing you.
No, I'm doing all right. I'm getting ready to go on vacation next week, so I'm excited about that.
Oh shit.
The last stream, actually, unless something crazy happens tomorrow and I have to do an emergency stream.
Bro, hold out. Joe Byron might have a heart attack. I'm just kidding.
We'll have to see. Okay, what do you got for us, sir? What do you have?
I'll air so I'm just gonna air a thought out and then I'm gonna dip. I'm gonna see how y'all discourse about it. If it even has anything. So for me, right? Hold on, let me also turn this off. All right, bet. So for me, right, when it comes to marriage, I think the only way you should act in a marriage is to preserve that marriage in all areas of activity, right? So like basically every way that you move in that marriage should prioritize preserving that marriage and that unity, right?
Okay.
And when I say this, then people start trying to dog me in my divorce takes because sometimes I get in trouble when it comes to my divorce takes. But basically for me, right, when you are just in a marriage,
your divorce takes out of curiosity?
I'm gonna cook a part of it. Well, I think when kids are not involved, divorce is pretty open in my eyes.
Okay.
Where you can just kind of express yourself and use the action of divorce in ways that are pretty open. But once kids are involved, I think it's just an indirect form of child abuse. Let me tell you why. So I think when you break up, and specifically I'm talking about divorce of irreconcilable differences. Sure. So I'm not talking about abuse, divorce in the ways that's currently carved out, like for things like spousal abuse, different types of monetary clarifications. If I'm looking at like Don Sterling as an example, that's a basketball reference for those who might get it. But anyway, so for me, right, when you break up a marriage with kids involved, I believe you're basically disaggregating the subjectivity of that child, and you're compromising that subjectivity because you're basically saying, oh, the subjectivity that you could have with us when we're in this union as husband and wife, we can also do that when we are separated. I don't think that's productive and healthy, especially when you're saying that like, oh, we can be subjective. You can express your subjectivity, but just when we're not next to each other. So you have to have it a particular way in this house. You have to have it a particular way in this house, which I don't think creates healthy outcomes. Now, my solution for this has never been to get rid of divorce. Because obviously it carves out a lot of things. So I'm just curious, very curious about how we parse out people having more meaningful marriages. Because I think when it comes to certain institutions, I think marriage is one that we should probably preserve and prioritize. However, I think that because divorce exists and people might be maybe not really thinking through how relationships work and how relationships might lead into marriages, not all relationships lead into marriages, that they might just be thinking that, like, oh, the same way I can express my freedom when I'm dating is the same way I can express my freedom when I'm in a relationship versus when I express my freedom in a marriage. I think those three things have different levels of like expression of who you are as an individual. I think people get that murky. And then those people who get it murky end up getting married and then they have kids. And then when they have kids, they think that, oh, we can't use our creative differences as two people to figure out this marriage. So sorry, Billy. Guess you have to have two Thanksgivings this year. That's a little hyperbolic, but
I get what you're saying. What are your thoughts on divorce and kids, Amanda? What are your thoughts here?
Do you mind if I ask a question first, or is that
sure.
I don't also want to get too personal, but do you by chance come from a divorced household at all?
No.
No? Okay. Um yeah, so I think it's really I get where you're coming from. Divorce is really hard on kids. To have to grow up into two different, very separate lives is very difficult. And I think that that can totally impact a child's well-being for sure. And then I guess like the only thing I'd have to say is you might have to take into account is keeping a union together that's a union where one or both of the parties are unhappy. Is that necessarily a better environment for kids um, versus a separation? Because sometimes passive aggression, things being in the energy, working as a union, even though things are not okay, can create a form of gaslighting, which in and of itself can be even more traumatizing to kids than a separation. Like things are not okay. That's why we're separate. That's traumatizing in and of itself. But then if you stay together and say things are okay, even though they're not, that's creating a form of gaslighting for the kids, which will make the child feel as though they're growing up on the Truman Show. You know what I mean? That can lead to very traumatizing outcomes either way, unfortunately.
So
Yeah.
I'll,
I
I'll,
think
I'll let you
something
respond, but I have some thoughts too. But go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that response too, because a lot of what you said kind of, for me, elicits a solution, but I'm not too sure how the solution can be actualized, where we have to prioritize a culture and really try to exemplify a culture that treats these things seriously, all the way down to dating. So, like, having more practices, and I gotta speak a little bit more towards the men on this because I think men are irresponsible in all three of these areas. It's more so than women. I think women are just sort of reacting to the battlegrounds that men have created. But that's a totally different argument for a totally different day. But I say that to say where I think that we need to have more meaningful discussion, conversation, and really sort of like expressions of dating, relationships, and marriage. And even like understanding and like expressing that, hey, not every person you date is going to lead to being in a relationship. And not every person that you're going to have a relationship with is going to lead to having a marriage. And being and understanding that like each one of those activities have different levels of freedom within it, and just because you're able to do something in dating doesn't mean you're able to do something in a relationship. And I don't necessarily think that we honestly teach that ever. We just kind of get thrown to the market of, because it is kind of a market of dating and then into the market of relationships without really any type of reference of like how to navigate with it. So people kind of just sort of playing it by ear.
Oh, yeah. This goes beyond just dating. Like us humans, we struggle at the fundamental basis of human connection. Truthfully, across all spans of different types of connection to family, to friends, and of course to dating, for sure.
Yeah. Because something that I mean Alzarin, who's I guess a Wick regular, was asking a question that kind of like alludes to this, right? So if you are in, and you kind of elicited the question as well, where if you are in a relation, if you are in a marriage, we'll go there because that's a more complicated question. Like if you are in a marriage and you are genuinely unhappy, how do you reconcile that difference, in this case irreconcilable differences, with that child? Because I think that's the part that I have reservations with, whereas basically you entered into a relationship with someone that eventually led to a marriage, and you're basically saying that in the worst of the worst, we can't use our creative resources, tools, experiences, education to come together to try to figure this out for the sake of our marriage. That's why I said from the jump, where it's like, I think like for me, right, the person that I'm going to marry, like we've already talked about these things of like, how do we act in a way that helps preserve our marriage in all areas? And then what happens, for example, if you are trying to preserve the marriage and the family that you enter into, the more like extended family, does not believe your marriage to be legitimate, and they might be expressing it in different ways. And I'm saying it's like believing it's being illegitimate, where it's just like oversimplified, antagonistic family members.
Yeah, so that's like just answering the first part of that statement in terms of what couples can do. I always recommend like counseling, couples counseling. I always recommend getting a third party involved, such as a marriage therapist, somebody that's dealt with a lot of different marital couples. I don't believe in just giving up right away. I think, especially if kids are involved, I think that that's very important. But in terms of the extended family members you're thinking about or you're speaking about, that sounds like an issue with like the in-laws or something of that sort, in which I would have to have like more information on the context, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. Because I guess like the thing that's on my mind a bit when it comes to relationships, right, is I don't necessarily think that people think these things through. So they might enter into a relationship, we'll say dating broadly. Like you'll date someone, oh, I'm dating you because I think you are attractive. And then you're just going through that thinking that person is attractive. And then that stops working. Like maintaining this activity just on attractiveness no longer works. So then the question is like, okay, do I enter into this next step, or do I use the freedom of be dating someone, which basically I believe that the freedom that dating allows you is to leave without any reason for a justification as to why you're leaving. Where I think in relationship, you have to have a good reason to leave.
I have
And
yeah, no,
yeah.
yeah, I think I have a few thoughts here. You're correct. Kids change the dynamic, not just with marriages, but also when you're dating and relationships in
Mhm.
general as well. Because, gang, you don't have to be married to have kids. Crazy, I know.
Yeah, I know.
However, I'm a strong believer if you do have a child with someone, whether you wanted to or like whether it was purposeful or not, maybe you had an oopsie, okay? And you have that kid, now you have responsibilities. So whether you want to or not, you are in that person's life, right? The person you had a child with. And I think that I agree 100% with you, Joe, that I think that people are too frivolous about this. We prioritize our quote unquote happiness, whatever that means, over the life and well being of a child. And to a certain extent, I understand it. Like, if it's not my kid, it's not my problem in a very real way, right? But if it is my child, I bear a responsibility above and beyond, right? So I think that, like, to your point, Amanda, where you saying which is better, the question to end a relationship that's not working or to stay in the relationship but maybe have this gaslight thing. I think that we can thread that needle. I don't think it's as hard as people want to say. I think that like staying together in a relationship or a marriage is a choice at the end of the day, and you have to decide as a couple to do that in order to help raise the children. Now, if that means like having a open relationship of some sort on the side or something, I don't know, right? Like, I don't know exactly. That'll vary from relationship to relationship. But I think that what we need to do in culture, and I think Joe was kind of getting at this, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is we have to stop being so self-centered. I don't know how else to put it, right? And we stop acting as an individual and start acting as a unit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes. I also do want to add one thing, that no relationships are perfect, and that people that even enter into a marriage with everything mapped out and have kids still may not be the perfect parents, which can be like
Absolutely.
very hard to understand and to swallow. But this is like the thing with becoming less black and white and more nuanced, which our minds are advanced and capable enough, but it just takes time. Um, is that, there's actually a lot of really bad parents out there, unfortunately, even those that are
Oh,
still
come on.
married.
Casey Anthony was such a pride. I'm just kidding.
I'm done.
Too dark? That was
Yeah,
too dark? Probably too dark. She just
no,
forgot her
not at
kid was in the
all.
pool. That's all. You know?
Yeah, no, not at all. Not dark at all. Actually, yeah, like you'd be surprised. I know someone who knows like a person that went to their high school who was in a similar situation. Life is very complex and very hard. I think humans are fundamentally so flawed, every single one of us. And I think that that's important to keep in mind.
And a thing to that too,
Last thing, and then
is
we got
I'll just because I'll just say it, like, once kids are involved, and this is what I believe, once kids are involved in any one of these areas of expression, dating, relationship, or marriage, everything else you do is a hobby. Everything. Everything else you do. So it's like, sure, you might have a job, but your job has to be in relationship with them kids. You're like, you might be able, like, and being able to express yourself in a way of reminding yourself that like every action that I do has to be in relationship with my children, otherwise this isn't going to work. That's just sort of like my take on that.
no,
Yeah.
makes sense.
A lot of people do have kids too when they are still a child themselves
Right.
too, which is important to take into account. And I just mean that in terms of like even like teen pregnancy. Many people have kids before they're ready, if that makes sense. I think in an ideal world, like I totally agree that if you're a proper parent, you'll put your kid before yourself. But unfortunately, we live in a very dark world in which many people, even in a marital household, even behind a white picket fence, won't put kids before themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's like, and that's very sad. And I actually see that as the majority. I actually don't really know people who grew up in like, like a great environment, right? Like there's many problems within everyone's situation.
And then in the moments when you can't do, this is the thing that like rich conservatives get right, where some parts of their relationships and marriage, and they just get it wrong, where it's like they understand very explicitly that if I don't have the resources to do X, I must outsource X. And unfortunately, then the question is, for everybody else who isn't rich conservatives, is okay, how much of this outsourcing is taking away from my ability to actually parent? Where, like, it's one thing to say, hey, I'm going to outsource driving my kid to school. I don't have to just I'm have my nanny do it. But then like how much of this thing that you delegate to one individual person starts becoming parenting by proxy. But that's a totally different thing.
Joe, thanks for calling in, buddy.
Yeah.
It was an interesting question. I got too many thoughts on this, and I fear like we'll be here all night if I just rant on this. But thank you for calling in, and I'll see you later, buddy.
All right, have fun with Charmhole.
Thank you.
Last caller.
Oh my god. And
Okay, you're live.
let's go. Yeah, hello. Boy, it's been a while since I've been on Twitch. How you doing, man?
I'm living life. I'm ready to wrap it up. What do you have to leave us with?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the assassination attempt on Trump was the Bidens attempting to kill him. Bongino says things like, how there were multiple failures in multiple situations, right? But first, what they tried to do, right, is they try to put you in prison. Then, well, no. So first they sue you, right? Try to take all your money. Then they put you in prison, right? And if they can't do that, then they kill you. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. We've seen it. We've all seen it for the past 8 years. They're so mad he stole it from Hillary. They're fucking. They were like, we. How many like? Okay, let me ask you this. How many pieces of media did you see over the last 8 years? Because this should have been Hillary's last year, right, as president. How many pieces of media did you see that were meant to be for when Hillary was president, right? Like the Wonder Woman, right? Like Miss Marvel, right? Like all this
I don't
media.
think that they're designing this based on who they think is going to be president. I just don't. Like, I think they're designing it to make money. I don't think anyone's like, we're going to make this movie and we know Hillary Clinton's going to be president, and so we're going to put this movie out because we know she's going to be I just don't. And the fact, hold on, and this idea, right, this conspiracy theory, right, that the Bidens had hired the shooter lacks evidence, is wild in its, like, my incredulity for statements like that is like very, very high. It does not pass the smell test, and it's just it makes you sound very retarded, Charmhole.
There is overwhelming evidence that there were multiple,
You know
not
what
just
else that there's
failures.
overwhelming evidence for?
What?
Going to the void. Okay, thanks for calling in. Gang, like, here's the deal, right? Is if you're going to bring a claim like that, you better have actual evidence and not just, I saw it on a TikTok, because I'm not going to take you seriously. Look, here's the deal. It's one of those things where it does not help to speculate. The FBI is doing their investigation. If evidence comes out that there was some sort of someone hired to this guy, first of all, who's hiring this 20-year-old no one? Who's gonna hire a 20-year-old no one? Like the Biden crime family, they've reached into their deep money pockets, pooled the deep state, called up their secret CIA operatives. Who do you got? We need your top guy to take out Trump. Ring, ring, ring. Hello. This is the Blackrock High School. We got this 20-year-old motherfucker here who just is like a freshman in college. We're going to send him out to do the dirty work there. What is going on? Why would that ever be the case? Why would that, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's the show tonight. Amanda, tell people who you are, where they can find you, and all that.
Yeah, great. So I'm definitely like an anti-red pill, black pill person in terms of the manosphere, and you can find me Girlfriend Guide for Guys on YouTube. That's the number 4, Girlfriend Guide for Guys. And yeah.
Okay. No, thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. It went all over the place. But
It was
gang,
great. It was great. Yeah. It was awesome.
check her out. Go to the link I have in my description of my YouTube, and you click that. We're gonna leave you now, and we're gonna say bye-bye. So wave, everyone. Bye-bye.